starts now.
They used his own tweets against him. I'm Dave Anthony. Fox News. An appeals court again rules against a blocked executive order, and President Trump again tweets about it. Fox's Rachel Sutherland live in Washington.
Dave, President Trump is upset with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco. Tweeting, the court did it again, ruled against travel ban at such a dangerous time in the history of our country, adding the letters SC. The president apparently referencing the U.S. Supreme Court, which could act soon on a request from the Trump administration to unblock the order. The Ninth Circuit ruled the president overstepped his authority by issuing the executive order, temporarily restricting travel from 6 predominantly Muslim nations considered terror threats. Dave.
Rachel, Attorney General Jeff Sessions gets the spotlight today at the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Sessions is going to get grilled over questions regarding his contact with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak and accusations coming from James Comey last week. But the White House welcomes this testimony, saying the sooner we can move on, the better.
Fox's Griff Jenkins, a friend of the president. Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy says he believes the president is considering firing Special Counsel Bob Mueller, probing Russian campaign meddling. The White House dismisses that. A Democrat on the House Intel Committee says Congress would reappoint Mueller immediately. They partied into the night in Oakland, celebrating the Warriors' second NBA championship in 3 years.
Did you hear this? This is KD right now.
Kevin Durant was MVP, leading Golden State past Cleveland in Game 5 of the NBA Finals, 129-120. A controversial former NBA star has gone back to North Korea.
Are you bringing a message from President Trump to North Korea?
Dennis Rodman says he's there to see friends, including leader Kim Jong-un, who's condemned around the world for his nuclear weapons and missile tests. Rodman, who was twice on Celebrity Apprentice, says he's trying to open a door. He thinks President Trump would support it. A suspect has been arrested in Arkansas hours after a Newport police officer shot during a traffic stop died at a hospital. Fox News, fair and balanced.
This is the sound of a brand new outdoor grill being hurled off a 20-story building. Now a stylish glass coffee table. An electric guitar. These are the things you could enjoy, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Visit EnergySavers.gov and get tips on how to save energy and money. Then do things like switch to Energy Star light bulbs or Energy Star appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. So this doesn't happen to the recliner you've had your eye on, or this to the treadmill on your wish list, or this to the shiny new bike your kid's been asking for. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
High-profile supporters of President Trump are turning on Special Counsel Robert Mueller, the man charged with investigating Russian interference in the U.S. election. Trump supporters are increasingly worried the investigation will overshadow the president's agenda. A Wall Township dad says he doesn't want the high school yearbook reissued and doesn't want a teacher fired after his son's Donald Trump shirt was photoshopped out of the yearbook. Joe Berardo says he spoke with the school last night and is satisfied with their approach. In 3 weeks, a report from a task force on campus sexual assault will be submitted. It'll include a subsection around drugs and alcohol on campus. The issue was a recurring one over the task force's year-long of work, says Task Force member Anne-Marie Bramnick.
2 of the major issues that came up through every single conversation that we had and every time that we met were the issues of consent and the issues of alcohol.
Only limited details about the Task Force report were discussed Monday in an assembly hearing. A final report and recommendations are due later this month. I'm Eric Scott, and this is the Town Square News Network.
Today will be our heat wave grand finale and probably the most oppressive day of the bunch. In fact, we have a heat advisory for the New York and Philadelphia urban areas through this evening. High temperatures today in the lower to mid 90s. The heat index, or feels like temperature, could reach the mid to upper 90s. It'll be mostly to partly sunny today. A shower or thunderstorm possible tonight. Still pretty muggy as lows only fall to around 70. The cool down really kicks in tomorrow. Mid 70s along the coast near 80 inland. It'll be a partly sunny and breezy day tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
5 minutes past the hour. I want to thank my broadcasting partner, Chuck Malamut, for giving me this opening segment. We would normally be starting, as we've done for the past more than a quarter of a century, Financial Matters with Chuck. Chuck is going to join us for the last 45 minutes of the hour so that we can break some rather significant news, a Hurley in the Morning exclusive. I actually broke it at Harry Hurley on Facebook at exactly 8 a.m. this morning because I gave my word that I would not broach this topic until 8 o'clock this morning, and I have learned and confirmed, and in a first report on this topic, I can confirm to you right now that there is a multi-jurisdictional raid at the Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey office and also at the Linwood home of Dr. James Kaufman. Dr. Kaufman is a local endocrinologist, an internist, and he is the husband of the late April Kaufman. Hurley in the Morning has learned and confirmed and is now first reporting that this multi-jurisdictional law enforcement raid is underway at the Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey office. And I do know there was significant police presence also at the Linwood residence of Dr. James Kaufman. Members of the FBI, Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office, and local law enforcement have participated today. This is ongoing as we speak. Under federal law, the FBI may obtain a specific search warrant, and the execution of the search warrant is the raid itself. The Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution requires law enforcement agencies to obtain a search warrant based upon probable cause. The searches must be reasonable and specific, and even at times, hearsay can be enough to generate a search warrant. The rooms to be searched must be identified in the warrant, or there must be a specific list of things that the FBI hopes to obtain during the course of the search. The warrant is obtained by the FBI agent with preliminary evidence based on direct information. The purpose of an FBI raid is to surprise the subjects of their warrants so as to preserve the evidence. My well-placed sources have confirmed, this is very important, ladies and gentlemen, I want to repeat, my well-placed sources have confirmed that this morning's search warrant at Dr. James Kaufman's office and residence does not appear to directly involve any issues regarding the murder of his wife, April Kaufman. I was given permission to confidentially share this news with my identical twin brother, Don Hurley, who represented the Hurley in the Morning program today. This was all going on, and I was not in a position to tell you about it. And Don was on the scene since 7 o'clock this morning at the Egg Harbor Township scene. When I learned that there would be activity at two locations, it seemed to me the place for Don to be was at the Egg Harbor Township office, and it wound up being the right call because this is where Dr. Kaufman is at the moment. I have an idea. I have a direct idea what today's search warrant is about. However, I will not speculate further on air about it at this time in order not to risk jeopardizing a pending FBI criminal investigation or a Atlantic County prosecutor's criminal investigation. Multiple sources have confirmed to me that at this hour, Dr. Kaufman is barricaded in his Egg Harbor Township office and that dozens of police cars are on site. I've learned a few other details from confidential sources that I wish I could tell you. They are serious in nature of exactly the high stakes of what's going on right at this moment, how high stakes they are, but we're going to hold it right there. Coming up for the remainder of the hour, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to take necessarily phone calls where you can comment on what you've just heard. I mean, I think we can all process that there is a very, very serious multi-jurisdictional law enforcement matter underway. And if you're just joining the program, I've known for a number of hours that this was going to be taking place. I again want to thank Chuck Malamut, who has arrived to our studios, for adjusting his schedule this morning so that we could break this news. If you've missed some of what I've said, if you go to my Facebook page, Harry Hurley on Facebook, and I've also copied Chris Coleman, a lot of people here at Town Square Media, including our digital editor and director, Ashley, and that this will probably be up not only at WPGTalkRadio.com, but on all of the digital platforms here at Town Square Media, South Jersey. And so just to recap, then we'll get our break in, then we'll come right back with Chuck Malamut, and we're going to shift gears. There's no smooth transition from what we're sharing to then come back and talk all about your financial matters, but that's exactly what we're going to do. But if you're just joining our coverage, just joining our program in a Hurley in the Morning first report, we have confirmed that there is a multi-jurisdictional raid at the Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey office. Earlier, there was police activity as well at the home of Dr. James Kaufman. This multi-jurisdictional law enforcement raid involves the FBI, the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office, and local law enforcement. There also is an ambulance that's on the scene at Dr. Kaufman's office. There is something that's going on that I'm not going to share with you, but if I tell you there's an ambulance there, then you can. You're very bright. You're very smart. You can figure out why that might be there. Either that something, they're worried something may happen. I'm not saying that something has happened, but there is a threat at the moment as well. Multiple sources have confirmed with me. But what we're reporting on this morning is that the FBI and other legal controlling authorities, they've executed a search warrant. Obviously, that means they know what they're looking for, and they went to go get this today. And it is my understanding that there is at this point sort of a barricaded, the street area is completely cordoned off, and this is a police matter involving Dr. Kaufman, who is in the office at the moment, and the police are outside at the present time, is my understanding. I was given permission to confidentially share this news with my identical twin brother. Don was there from 7 o'clock this morning until when we told him just, to release, because this was becoming, a situation where law enforcement needed the opportunity to do whatever they needed to do to barricade the area, to do whatever they needed to do. So we got Don out of there. He did get some photography memorialized. I've seen a little bit of it. And it is also important to note at this time, all of my sources have been consistent about this. And in fairness to the truth, we want to make it clear, because the moment you hear that there's a multi-jurisdictional police operation and warrant, and search, at the office and at the residence of Dr. James Kaufman, you immediately want to wander to the late April Kaufman murder case. And we're making it clear here, to be truthful, to be honest and forthright about this. All of our sources have said that this does not pertain directly to the murder of April Kaufman. This is another matter or matters. We'll take a brief time out. We'll be back. It's Hurley in the Morning on WPG.
This summer, make your escape to Resorts Casino Hotel for hot summer fun. With live entertainment and great promotions, every day is filled with fun. Play daily for your chance to win the $2 million Flip-Flop Fever game. Then, cool off with frozen drinks at Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. Grab a bite on the beach at Landshark Bar and Grill. Or treat yourself at award-winning gourmet restaurants Capriccio and Gallagher's Steakhouse. Plan your summer at resortsac.com/HSF. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza, Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department, selection, and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service, parts, and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
Gilda's Club South Jersey's second annual Dragon Boat Festival is coming to Lake Lenape Mays Landing from 8:30 till 5, Saturday, July 15th. And it's a fantastic opportunity for vendors. Get get business and product exposure over a full day from an expected crowd of over 1,500 people and generate immediate cash profits while helping Gilda's Club South Jersey, where individuals and families impacted by cancer receive free support, education, and hope. The $150 vendor's fee supports Gilda's Club. Call 609-926-2699 for an application.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
If your dreams include a spring makeover, now's the perfect time to think about a home equity line of credit from Ocean First Bank. From home improvement projects to paying off debt or finally booking that dream vacation, we're offering a great low rate for your big plans.
Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender.
I'm Trina Webster.
And I'm Dan Webster, founders of Z Quiet. Let me be honest, I snored.
Yeah, he did. Crazy loud.
And I was forced to sleep on the couch most nights.
Dan tried everything, including surgery, to solve his snoring problem.
Nothing worked.
So he turned to experts and created a solution that's a total game changer. A mouthpiece called Z Quiet.
Not just any mouthpiece, one that gently opens the airway where the snoring happens. In fact, it's based on the same technology as treatments costing thousands of dollars.
It allows natural jaw movement so you can talk, breathe normally, and best of all, sleep comfortably without making a sound.
And what's really cool is that it couldn't be easier. Just pop it in before you go to sleep to kick snoring out of bed.
So you can sleep quiet
with Z Quiet.
Z Quiet fits both men and women. Try it risk-free for 30 days for just $9.95. Go to getzquiet.com or text MOVE to 91011. Go to getzquiet.com or text MOVE to 91011.
Hi, remember this is Tony Lander with Hurley in the morning. Keep listening.
One tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree.
Hurley in the morning.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. The program you're about to listen to is presented by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this weekly program are those of Chuck and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. And Chuck, I want to thank you for your just your collegiality and your partnership to allow me to break that news. And again, if people missed it, you can go to WPGTalkRadio.com. Everything, basically, I shared a few things extemporaneously, but basically everything that I shared in our opening segment is up now at WPGTalkRadio.com, also on my Facebook page, Harry Hurley. And again, Chuck, thank you.
Harry, you're welcome. So I guess now we pivot to why we're here every Tuesday morning.
Exactly.
And that's the chat about the financial markets. So, as you know, last week, front and center, a couple things happened. One, the UK election results, and I'm sure you're all over this one. It didn't go, quote, as expected. And former FBI Director James Comey, his testimony before Congress. And as it turns out, while politics, are driving headlines and consuming a lot of attention, by investors, they're really not affecting, Harry, the factors that actually drive financial markets that we oftentimes talk about. We talk about economic growth. We talk about corporate earnings. We chat about inflation. So as we look at U.S. equities last week, they were mixed. Treasury yields did in fact decline early in the week, but moved higher as we got to the end of the week. The U.S. dollar rose, and oil prices fell sharply on news of higher inventories. So, as you look at the week itself, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up actually 0.3%. The S&P 500 was down 0.3%. And the clear loser of the week, Harry, which came under a lot of pressure, particularly on Friday and some carryover into today, was the NASDAQ, or technology, down about 1.5%. But when you kind of put that in perspective, year to date, all the indices are up. S&P up 9.6, Dow Jones up 8.9, and the NASDAQ up almost 16%. That's going into yesterday, and again, we did have some follow through yesterday on the downside, and there's all kinds of discussion as to what happened and why it happened and where do we go from here with respect to technology. Having said all that, I think what I'll do, Harry, maybe we'll talk for a minute, is, if you looked at Friday, and certainly one day does not make a market. What clients were asking, they wanted to understand, that the rotation that we went through on Friday. Think about it. We had, going into that day, clear leadership in large cap growth space, and now what we saw on Friday and actually more follow through today was that shift back to value oriented stocks like financials and energy. So the question is this a 1 day, a 2 day, a 3 day phenomenon? We had significant outperformance in positioning and technology, Harry, as we got through this year. We don't think it's over, and probably expect some additional follow through as we get into the latter part of this week. And don't be surprised, moving forward, if it's not necessarily the end of technology, Harry, certainly, but I think it's really more of a pause than anything at this point in time. So think about the fact that Morgan Stanley came out with an S&P target of 2,700 for this year, 2017. So for that to happen, your large cyclical stocks, have to perform. So Friday's action is actually not such a bad thing, Harry, where you see that rotation that we've kind of chatted about, for weeks. Financials, energy, they were the laggards, and all of a sudden now you're starting to see that shift, and that's actually a healthy sign in a long-standing equity bull market.
Chuck, when I saw what you would call geopolitical things going on, for example, the Prime Minister of Great Britain called for early elections with the belief that she was going to solidify her majority. And then the unimaginable happened in her estimation, and that is that they did not even achieve a majority to continue to govern. Then the uncertainty of her having to have an appointment with the Queen to ask permission. For people who don't know how a parliamentary government works, she had to go ask the Queen for permission to form a government by asking a small, almost nothing burger party that had about 10 or so seats that they had won in the parliament in those elections, and that put them, they fell like 5 or so members short of the majority that they needed. But once again, Chuck, I think in days gone by, that would have really upset our markets. We didn't even yawn at that.
No, Harry, interestingly enough, we didn't. And the fact of the matter is, there's been a lot of discussion about Brexit. So the election, resulted in a hung parliament, now creating a fair amount of uncertainty about the path ahead for Brexit and with respect to those negotiations. So, as you mentioned, the overall market reaction was muted at best. The British pound initially on the news did weaken, and UK domestic stocks did in fact decline. But I think the best way to describe it, Harry, is probably more of a blip on the radar more than anything else. It wasn't this massive sell-off where you couldn't get out fast enough. And what happened is the pound did in fact, come back. It was down slightly, but not down to the tune of, 5, 10, 15%. That's for sure.
And Chuck, here's another thing. And I know you touched on Comey, but see if you agree with this, and we'll get our next break in, and we'll come right back strong with some more power segments straight ahead with Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. And remember, for all of your financial needs, turn to Chuck. He's the leader of his group, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. 609-383-2010 is their phone number. The Comey testimony, I believe, was expertly processed by our financial markets, which were completely unmoved by them, as sensational as this normally would have been in all of American history, where the president's veracity, the FBI director called the president a liar. But I believe the financial markets processed the fact that Comey said under oath that the president of the United States, and this is not a partisan statement for anybody who's listening, Chuck's show is never about politics, but we do talk about geopolitical crossover events, and this is certainly one where an FBI director, not only on one hand, said he leaked information because he felt the president was going to lie, and at the same time, he also stated under oath that the president of the United States never has been, nor until the moment he left, which was just recently, was he under any FBI, any federal criminal investigation. The markets seem to take that as the takeaway, Chuck.
Harry, I think what happened, I think every major network, all the cable networks, I mean, everybody just focused on Comey's testimony. And you think about this, as you mentioned just a minute ago, geopolitical risks, and wow, for the longest time, in spite of everything that was happening, with coming out of Washington, what is happening now, Harry, we're starting to see some increasing pessimism surrounding, the D.C. area. But that, in fact, could create, we think, some positive, surprises, for the equity market. So let's think about this. So Comey's testimony did not deliver any bombshells. I mean, there were literally all kinds of what ifs, and here's what's going to happen, what it, unfortunately, Harry, I think what it did do, it did in fact, I think, weaken our president's credibility, and did put some doubt about the administration's ability to deliver on its agenda. So think about it: two most important things: healthcare and healthcare reform and tax reform. So now, we thought, if you think about that day after the election and leading up to the end of the year, the markets, had a very, very good fourth quarter. So, now, the political optimism that we thought was way too high has now, the pendulum has swung to the other direction. Where you don't have that political optimism, you have a fair amount of pessimism. So, at this point in time, any hint of moving forward, Harry, with respect to tax cuts, and you and Kirk did a good job talking about that this morning, and healthcare. I mean, we think that could be a real positive, momentum shifter for the equity markets, because what we're doing, Harry, now for the most part, it seems as if ever since earnings came, we've just sort of been treading water at this point in time.
Do you believe that, and then we'll get our break in, do you believe that our financial markets are reading that the tea leaves say the administration will be able to chew gum and walk at the same time, will be able to deal with the compartmentalization of the special counsel and anything that may ripple from that, including nothing, but probably something? They're going to spend a lot of money to probably prosecute somebody, but I don't think it will be the president. Do you think that markets are comfortable that the Trump agenda, the financial agenda of lower taxes, creating jobs, reinvestment? Look, the coal industry in one sector actually recorded its first profit in how many years, Chuck? So I guess what I'm saying is, if the geopolitical threat does not upset the economic agenda, I believe we're poised to do that 3% GDP and beyond.
Well, Harry, I think unfortunately, everything is sort of on that delay where it's not coming as quickly as we would like it to, because of the fact that all this other stuff, I guess is the best way to call it, is just consuming way too much time, effort, energy, and resources, coming out of the White House. And it's unfortunate that we are in this quagmire, so to speak, where we just can't seem to, push the ball forward because of any of a number of issues. But the market, the market is clearly focused on earnings, Harry. We talked about that at the end of Q1, and we're going to talk about at the end of Q2. And we still are of the belief that earnings will come, and they will get to expectations or slightly above. And the equity markets, have done a pretty remarkable job, just sort of casting aside everything that's coming from Washington. But you get to the point where enough is enough, and they say, okay, put up or shut up. And so, the 2017 initiatives of being able to enact health care reform and tax reform. Think about it, Harry. We're in the middle of June right now, and where we need to be, before year end.
Are we? I
don't think so.
Are we on pace?
I don't think so either. Unfortunately, right now, I think every time it's kind of taking two steps forward, one step back. And unfortunately, sometimes we're not taking two steps back; we're taking three steps back, and there's just way too much focus and attention on things that aren't really helping our country at this point in time.
We're going to take a brief time. We're coming right back. I do want to make an important clarification. My work still stands tall, and it stands firm, and it stands accurate, but we want to make an important clarification. It is a multi-jurisdictional law enforcement effort involving Dr. Kaufman and presently the barricaded standoff, and all that is accurate. The Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office executed the search warrant. I was of the belief there's certainly, and I mentioned them as a key law enforcement partner in all this, I thought that the FBI had executed the search warrant. So it is a distinction with a difference, and we want to get it right. We want to give credit to the different legal controlling entities and what they did and so on and so forth. So the FBI, the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office, the local law enforcement, all the presence that we have confirmed in our breaking news report that's happening this hour at the office of Dr. James Kaufman. But I want to make it clear that the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office executed the search warrant. We'll be back with Chuck Malamut in just a few minutes.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 is South Jersey's dependable station for news, traffic, and weather for your ride home. Listen weekdays from 3 to 6 as Sean Hannity debates the hot topics of the day. The Town Square News Network keeps you informed with South Jersey news, meteorologist Dan Zero's forecast 4 times an hour, and South Jersey traffic updates to get you home faster. For your ride home, make the switch to WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hi, I'm Sean Steitler. East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows would like to give praise to our Lord Jesus Christ for its accomplishments. This past year, East Coast has won multiple Angie's List Super Service Awards for both roofing and siding. We have won Best of the Press Gold for 8 years and have once again achieved GAF's Triple Excellence Award for Consumer Excellence, Training Excellence, and Installation Excellence. East Coast represents a small percent of contractors in the country to receive this coveted award. East Coast has recently expanded our financing options to offer you the best plans for your needs. Financing is subject to credit approval, so call now for a free consultation.
Hi, I'm Larry Steitler. As a GAF Master Elite contractor, we are the only type of roofer that can provide you with a Golden Pledge warranty, the most powerful warranty in the industry today. So call East Coast today at 646-1444 or check us out on the web at eastcoastroofing.com.
If you'll call, we'll show up.
East Coast Roofing and Siding. Trust us with your family and home.
Why buy a Lexus from Lexus of Atlantic City? For over 25 years, they've taken as much pride in their customer service as they do in their vehicles. They offer a huge selection of new and pre-owned cars, SUVs, and crossovers, and provide elite customer service with world-class amenities. Buying a luxury car is never intimidating at Lexus of Atlantic City. It's luxury at the right price. Visit them at 3169 Fire Road in Egg Harbor Township or LexusofAtlanticCity.com.
Atlantic County's We Check for 21 training is being held Tuesday, June 20th at Stockton University. Bartenders, servers, restaurant and liquor store owners, and police are invited to this free training on how to spot fraudulent IDs. Sessions are at 10, 2, and 5, and registration is required. Contact Join Together Atlantic County at 609-272-0100. The coalition is also sponsoring upcoming TIPS trainings. Contact JTAC at 272-0100 for more information.
I've got the world on a string, sitting on a rainbow.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning, starring your old pal Hurley in the Morning. And this is his old pal, Frank Sinatra Jr. You're right here on AM.
What a world, what a life, I'm in love.
Hurley in the Morning. 35 minutes past the hour with the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut. For all of your financial planning needs, turn to, the man that I believe has perfected his concept of total asset management coupled with the all-important asset allocation, a reminder that involves all aspects of your financial planning. College building for your children, get that going at an early age. We talked about that 1 or 2 Malamut programs ago. That's so important, and it's something that you can do in a very manageable way, but you want to start planning, at age 1 day old and not at age 17. And for all other financial matters, vacation planning, retirement planning, Chuck can help you with all aspects, and you can put a plan together and you work that plan. And if you know exactly where you want to be, Chuck will show you how, to get there, how long it will take, when you can retire. I mean, these are attainable things, aren't they, Chuck?
Harry, they're very attainable because
most people think I'm locked in, I'm going to be working till the day I die. But if you properly plan, you can change that.
Harry, whether it's planning for retirement, planning for education for your children or your grandchildren, it's like anything else. It's if you set your goals and it's not too much of a stretch, and you stick to your disciplines, there's a very, very high probability, Harry, that you can achieve those goals. It's
what do you say to people that get worried? Oh my God, I was on pace, but now I'm not, and they get all stressed out over any moment in time.
It's pretty interesting, Harry, because we use a retirement module called LifeView, and what LifeView measures is the probability of success. And if the comfort zone is anywhere from 70% probability of success up to, say, 100, there are a number of people that we work with that over the last several years, the probability of success has increased for any of a number of reasons. One, they've saved more. 2, they're closer to retirement. 3, their life expectancy is now a little bit diminished, Harry, because they're not going to, they worked longer and they're not going to spend as much time in retirement per se. And we've had a pretty good run within the equity markets in particular. So I think, unfortunately, what happens is all of us, and because I think you mentioned it, earlier today with either in your 6 o'clock hour, you talked about it with Kirk. Don't quite remember, but you talked about how the news can be all consuming.
Yep.
And
24/7.
Assuming and consuming, I guess, is the best way to put it. On
with a market ticker underneath all day long.
Yeah, and what happens is, it's not just our clients, it's investors, it's institutional, it's hedge funds, it's private equity. I mean, this news flow after a while becomes, unfortunately, somewhat negative. And instead of the glass being half empty, the glass becomes half full, and all of us begin to doubt what we're doing and why we're doing it. So we always like to kind of take a step back and say, okay, let's reassess where we are, understand the assets that you have on deposit with us that we're managing, look at the other sources of revenue that you have potentially during your retirement. What sort of other assets do you have outside of your Morgan Stanley accounts? What are your expected Social Security payments, and what do you think you need as far as annual income? And you take all that information, Harry, and you use this tool that I refer to called LifeView, and what it's able to do is pinpoint where you are, if you have deficiencies, what you need to do to be able to clean up those deficiencies so you can live a fruitful, productive retirement and not have to worry about where your next meal is coming from per se.
Chuck, very, very impressive. When you sit down with folks and you go over what can seem daunting at first, they don't know how are we going to pay for college? How are we going to ever retire? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? If you break it down and sort of slow it down, talk about the process of getting started and for people to do the right thing and plan properly.
So what we do, Harry, with particularly with a prospective client or someone that's been referred to us, we oftentimes, we have that initial, discussion to try to understand, why they're calling and what they want to talk about. And once we get through that, most people are truly concerned about retirement, and for those that have younger children or younger grandchildren, they're concerned about, obviously, college education. So then we go through a checklist of items that we're looking for: tax returns, mortgage statements, credit card statements, asset statements, bank statements, income, projected expenses. Now, it seems, as you mentioned, it seems rather daunting, but when you kind of break it down line item by line item, the fact of the matter is you have all this information. It's just a matter of getting it organized. And what we oftentimes hear from prospective clients is, wow, that was sort of a challenge, but now I feel a lot better because now I know where everything is, at least the paperwork. And then we are charged with the responsibility of taking that information and doing the proper goal setting and understanding the risk tolerance, and then coming back with a plan of action. Now, in all likelihood, you can't enact all 10 steps of that plan immediately. But what you can do is you can sort of attack it and take off, items 1 through 3 as an example, and just sort of understand this is the most important, goal for us right now as a family. And then look to achieve that goal and get on track for that, and then look at and attack number 2, we'll say. What is the second most important goal? And believe it or not, Harry, I had a discussion with someone that had called in late yesterday that was referred to us, and my comment very simply was, well, I don't, and this very, very nice lady said, well, I don't want to take risks, but I want to be able to achieve the same rates of return that people have achieved over the last 9 months. And I said, well, I can't guarantee you're going to achieve those returns to begin with, and number 2, you can't. You're basically, I said it in a nice way, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can't do that. And really, what's the most important thing for you right now that you want to achieve? So we went through this rather lengthy discussion, and I think we ultimately came up with, at least initially, what those action steps, that this prospective client needs to do. And, hopefully she does get us what we need, and we can do the proper planning for her.
We're going to take a very brief time out, just a few minutes, and come right back more with the official financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut. Check out my breaking news story. I don't have time to tell you the details, but there is a major story both at WPGTalkRadio.com under my byline. Chris Coleman and I have been working this. You're going to see some photos that nobody else has. They will be going up both on my Facebook article and also at WPGTalkRadio.com with the Don P. Hurley watermark on them. And Don did a great job. He has some photography that I don't think anybody else has. You'll be able to see some of what's happening at this hour at the office of Dr. James Kaufman. I'm Hurley in the Morning. He is Chuck Malamut. Your Financial Matters with Chuck continues in just a few minutes.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update. From how to be safe and prepared in an emergency to how to take care of your pet, the American Red Cross has a suite of apps for your mobile device that include a wide range of helpful information. One of my favorites is the First Aid app. It is a free and simple way to get life-saving first aid instruction anytime, anywhere. Features include step-by-step instructions, videos and animations for first aid scenarios, a 911 call button and hospital locator, as well as safety and preparedness tips for a range of conditions, including severe weather and disasters. Be prepared and download the free Red Cross First Aid app today. It could save a life. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
Paul D'Amato.
Harry Hurley.
Paul, I know our listeners want to know what's new with the D'Amato Law Firm.
Things are great, Harry. We are so privileged to represent our clients whose lives have been turned upside down because they were involved in a serious accident. We meet on a regular basis. We copy our clients on all our correspondence so they always know what's going on with their case. We try to treat them like family. We have Alexa here, my daughter. I'm so happy that she's here. We have Steve Van Natten and Casey Gifford. We're a great legal team.
They're the D'Amato Law Firm for all of your personal injury legal needs. Turn to the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program for more than a quarter of a century. The D'Amato Law Firm in Egg Harbor Township, 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. Tell Paul, Alexa, Sandy, the entire team that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing during the decline in the U.S. economy, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-283-5948. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-283-5948 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-283-5948 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-283-5948.
Hi, this is Ivan Lendl, and it's Hurley in the Morning.
That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Hi, I'm Andy Roddick, and you're listening to Hurley in the Morning. No, thank you. I think we're all real excited about it. I know it's my first time here, and I'm gonna enjoy it for sure.
That tonight's gonna be a good night.
You know, anytime you can come spend time with a bunch of guys who have all been number one in the world, it's there's nothing bad to be picked up from that. I promise you. Hi, I'm Andy Roddick, and you're listening to Hurley in the Morning. We'll have some fun, and thank you.
That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Hurley in the Morning.
Chuck Malamut, he's here. Chuck, we're going to now talk about U.S. wage growth, which is music to everyone's ears because that wasn't happening for quite a while.
So, Harry, let's think about this for a second. Unemployment has been reported at 4.3%. Average hourly earnings have stabilized at an annual clip at about 2.5%, which is really very, very low, Harry, considering you have an unemployment rate of 4.3%. So, you know, if we think about it, you know, the low levels of corporate revenue growth, the low productivity growth, and limited corporate pricing power have been headwinds for wage growth as we move, you know, through Q1 and into Q2. So, you know, the numbers on the unemployment number at 4.3%, I think, is obviously a great number. You know, you always talk about, is it really 4.3? Is it more like, you know, over 10%? But the fact of the matter is that we had talked about on a number of occasions how, you know, the average hourly wage earnings, growing was substantial, to help the economy. But now that you're kind of stuck, at that 2.5% rate, it doesn't really coincide, Harry, with an unemployment rate of 4.3%.
That's the disconnect.
Yeah. So, and that kind of takes us into the next topic. And as we all know, the Fed will come at 2:00 tomorrow with their statement.
And they will raise interest rates by 25 basis points.
Yeah, they will increase. I mean, look, there's
a thirst to do it.
There's a very, very high improbability they're not going to make a move.
And by the way, if they did not make a move, markets would not.
I think the markets would unfortunately be a little bit rattled. So everyone's expectation is that the Fed's going to raise the target rate to 1%.
Is it built in?
It is built into the market right
Good.
now. And what the Fed is going to say, improving growth and still very, very low inflation. Now, the Fed will probably also, Harry, chat about what's going to happen, their intentions with respect to normalizing their balance sheet. There was some discussion about that not too long ago. And the fact of the matter is the statement about, let's assume they go 25 basis points. I think also that we have to be conscious of when they make the statement, like, what are they going to say, not only about the balance sheet, what are they going to say about potentially future, rate hikes? I think there's a lot of discouragement. I think there's
going to say that there's going to be more.
But
that they will measure and react. Don't you think they're going to do the where there will be more, or we're looking to more, but we'll be mindful of market conditions and things? I think they're going to telegraph that it doesn't end here.
Well, I think what they're going to telegraph, Harry, is the pace of the rate increases is not going to be as fast and furious, so to speak, as it was all of us anticipated as we got into the beginning of 2017. I think they're going to slow down
as
here.
A layperson, I never agreed that it should have been fast and furious. When you don't do something for a decade, why do they have to go warp drive? Because they feel that we're in an environment where our economy is strong enough to sustain. We know, Chuck, and in fact, I think you'll agree with this statement, because your career is measured in more than 3 decades, close to 4 decades as a financial services senior executive. You've never had a 10-year period where rates were left completely untouched. It's never existed.
No, Harry, it hasn't. But, the economy, unfortunately, as you know, we had some very, very difficult, challenging times to work through, not only domestically, but also internationally as well. And the end result is, where we are today, a better economy, a more productive economy, and a lot more people back to work. But I think that we still are faced with the dilemma: am I better off, not being employed and staying home, or going to work? And I think that will continue to shift more in favor of you're more productive getting to work than staying at home.
I believe that's very sound, what you just said. Chuck, when you refer to increased pessimism around Washington, what do you mean by that?
Well, we kind of chatted about that, Harry, a little bit earlier this morning. And I mean, simply put, the fact that, as someone said to me not too long ago, what has happened of late is that the media has done just a remarkable job of basically taking all the air out of the room, where you feel like you're being suffocated. And I think you put it this morning, and I'm trying to recollect exactly what you said, but something to the extent if you'll listen for a very, very short period of time, you'll get the information that you need, and you're going to move on. You'll watch something else, a movie, read a book, or whatever. I remember that you did say that, and I think that's very, very sound advice that all of us need to do, because if we get wrapped up, with all this, news, so to speak, what's real and what's not, it ultimately becomes, I think, very, very counterproductive in all of our lives. Now, I'm not going to go out and tell your listeners how to live their lives, certainly, but I think that from what we do in our perspective, we really don't pay that much attention to it, Harry, because quite frankly, how else do I put it? It's pretty much a colossal waste of time. It's really not important. It only becomes important when you get to that absolute stalemate where we cannot move forward with the initiatives that we said were so very, very important as we got into November of last year. Tax reform and healthcare reform. And those, Harry, are the most important items that absolutely have to get addressed, resolved, and move forward. Because imagine for a minute a corporate tax rate at, say, 15 or 20%.
And how come the most important things that we need to be talking about, I know the reason because it's what I do 5 days a week on this program, but I'm just going to pose it to you. We're not talking about the most important things that should be talked about. There's no appetite right now in the media in America to talk about jobs, to talk about the financial markets, to talk about the $3 trillion has been infused, additional $3 trillion since the new president was elected, that we're actually seeing growth in employee wages, as you talked about on your show a little bit ago, Chuck. The markets are all at all-time highs, all of them. We're not talking about that literally Obamacare is collapsing. There's a really dishonest narrative right now where they're trying to make it almost seem like the American people want to continue with something that literally is faltering and teetering on total ruination, where some states have no choices left.
No, Harry, you're right, and I think we all understand what's happening and why it's happening, and unfortunately, I think we're at the point in time where no one can really step up and say, really, you need to end this. We all need to play in the same sandbox and sort of get along, in order, for the sake of making our country a better place to live and to prosper. So you think about, Harry, all the political developments that have happened here and also overseas. So, look, U.S. investors right now are very, very concerned about the passage of the pro-growth legislation that has been proposed. The UK elections that came in, calling the question the direction of Brexit that we kind of talked about, those renegotiations. So we think, Harry, this uncertainty is unfortunately going to continue and might even grow somewhat, but we don't really anticipate that negative contagion outside of the UK, and that's obviously good for all of us. So you've had on the economic front here, you've had that fading momentum that we kind of chat about, very, very soft inflation, which is actually not such a bad thing. But what has happened is we talked about the yield curve last week, as the Fed increases short rates and the long rates come down, it sort of flattens the U.S. yield curve. So, Harry, what do we always talk about? A flattened yield curve or an inverted yield curve can oftentimes signal sort of a precursor to
the R word,
to a recession. So investors are really more worried about the tightening of monetary policy, especially at a time when valuations look stretched in government bonds and to a lesser extent into U.S. equities. So the net effect of all this, Harry, is a pretty unusual situation that we have right now. Government bond yields have decreased while risk assets, including equities, have increased. So, the government bond markets are basically signaling, Harry, slower growth, out of step with what the Fed is saying. The Fed, as they're moving and increasing, ever so slowly rate hikes. Meantime, equities, stocks as we know them, are signaling improving growth. So what's right? Is it the bond market or is it the stock market? So really, what should investors look for as we move through the rest of the year? The drop in bond yields is probably temporary. We expect economic growth to recover. We have low inflation. We have a monetary policy that is accommodative. and we have corporate profits should create a better long-term environment for equities.
Chuck, as always, very comprehensive, very, very strong presentation this morning for all of your financial planning needs. Turn to the official, the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut. You can reach him and his team, the Malamut Group, at 609-383-2010. In the 20 seconds that I have, Chuck, I look forward to welcoming you, as I do each year, at the now 10th annual Hurley in the Morning Golf Open this Friday at Harbor Pines. And thank you for your incredible contributions.
Harry, we'll see you Friday.
Thanks. Thank you, sir. You know it. When we come back, Dr. Bob Zlotnick is making a house call. We'll return in just 5 minutes. Don't go away. Fox News and a Town Square News Network update. I'm Hurley in the Morning. He is Chuck Malamut. This is WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
104.1 WPGG Atlantic City, WSJO 104.9 HD2 Egg Harbor City. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
It's the Attorney General's turn to go under oath. I'm Dave Anthony. Fox News. Jeff Sessions, who recused himself in the Russia investigation, no doubt faces questions about it later today on Capitol Hill. Fox's Rachel Sutherland live in Washington.
Dave, the Attorney General will testify in an open session before the Senate Intelligence Committee, the same panel that grilled fired FBI Director James Comey. The man who replaced Sessions in the Senate, Republican Luther Strange, talked to Fox and Friends.
I'm glad Jeff's testifying.